Okay, I think everyone and their mother knows this scene. Do we all know this scene? This is where Will and Sean, it's towards the end of the therapeutic elm. The hero, Will, needs to go and live, and this is the last sort of moment. We would, in our terms, call this the slay the beast moment. This is the real sort of confronting of the beast that is in Will, and it is embraced in love by Sean. And this is the moment, it makes me cry because it's such a moment, is that Will is confronting the beast within himself, which is the belief. This is the belief, since we're doing refusal and belief, that somehow he deserved this. Somehow the traumas of the cigarette burns that were put out on his body, the trauma that he endured, was his fault. And this scene really needs no introduction other than the fact that Sean's getting through that moment of slaying the beast in a guardian way to say that it wasn't his fault.
I know. It's not your fault. All right? It's not your fault.
But it wasn't so much the words, it was the fact that this is the first time that Will is fully embracing love. His love is coming to him. It is the antidote for slaying the beast. That moment of that exchange was where he could be vulnerable. So you saw that his defense mechanisms went down. He could be vulnerable. That the slay the beast is where you leave it on the floor. You know, there's a saying in Christianity, it says you leave it at the foot of the cross. This is the moment where he is leaving that actual true belief that is buried underneath emotional pain, is that Will believed that he deserved this. And as long as he believed that that was true, he wouldn't reach for his calling because he didn't believe he was worthy of the gift either. And so at the core root of this, when Sean's saying, it's not your fault, it's not your fault. And at first you can see him, he's like, fuck off, Sean. Like, what are you doing? Like, fuck off. Like, don't be one of them. Don't psychobabble me. Don't try to control me. Don't try to manipulate me.
Don't fuck with me. It's not your fault. Don't fuck with me, all right? Don't fuck with me, Sean. Not you. It's not your fault.
See, again, he's looking for the agenda. And we see this again with kids that grow up on the streets, kids that have, lived in foster care. This is why we see kids that grow up in gangs, why they so much love gang culture, because it's a home place for them. They found a place of love and belonging, but they're always looking, and you see that when, if you've ever met I've been on a few dates with different men over the time, they sit with their back to the wall because they think that if they can see the doorways and the exit signs, that they're going to know how to get through this. So if they can just see their way out, that is a wiring into the being of fight or flight, and that is formed in emotional pain, where there's the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, the magical F's of the defense mechanisms. So what was so brilliant about the slay the beast moment, as quick as it was, as small of a scene it was where the defenses could go down, even though they immediately flared, but Sean, through love and compassion, was able to reach into the slay the beast moment, where in that moment, Will allowed himself to feel loved.
He used to just put a wrench, a stick, and a belt on the table and just say choose.
And there wasn't a discussion of cognition necessary. You can see that the container of that unresolved emotion, he just cried. And so when we talk about the emotional injury, this is the emotional injury that he didn't ever feel true empathy of the self until that moment where he allowed his little boy self to cry. That is a true expression of the empathy of the self. Up to that, he was fighting everyone. He never really allowed himself to just feel, period. Without storytelling, without the narrative, without the defense mechanisms, so without the cognition. And this is why, when we think about emotional fitness and we say, can we just feel our feelings, period? Period. Just period. And that scene is a true slay the beast moment. Any thoughts about that scene for each of you?
Yes, so I kind of shared already in the chat, but so of course I love the scene. It was just very emotionally packed. You could see like the weight lift off of him, and he even started. I feel like maybe he pushed him away, like physically pushed him, like don't do that to me. And it's just so. It was nice. I was relieved for him when he finally started crying and hugging because I know that that's hard. I mean, let's get into the whole male perspective as well. They don't want to let people in from the jump. And then when they finally have a male telling them it's okay, and just repeating it over and over again, just really no change of words. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Over and over and over again. Like, I was like, I maybe need to hear that. It's not your fault over and over and over again, just so I can really solidify it in your head. So I really enjoyed it. I think that scene was very, very powerful too. Like, if we're comparing all scenes, I think that one was like the that children should see.
Yes.
Because it's not their fault.
This is again when we talk about the science of emotional pain in this way. There are 3 pain points: powerlessness, right? So abandonment or unworthiness. And so when we think about Will, who's got the triple whammy of all 3, he felt powerless when that happened to him. So then he therefore internalized that he must have done something to deserve it because he didn't have any power in those moments. The second was feeling unworthiness, because how are they supposed to love you when they do this to you? Like, how does a child start to understand that they're loved when this has happened to them? They can't cognitively, rationally make sense of it. And so abandonment, who leaves a child in this, right? So that's what he internalizes as a truth, as a belief structure. And so this is why the work that we're doing here is so critical for the world, is that belief structure stays in a human being through adulthood. And it doesn't make it less true because we're 50. If we haven't healed the emotional pain root, it will still be underneath there, buried in the subconscious, waiting for the eruption. And it could be when you turn 50 and you leave your spouse behind and your kids and you need to like go and have your midlife crisis, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. All you know is that it's in you. It's an abscess. And you're trying to fight to get to it, but you don't know how to get it because we're trying to use our cognition. We're trying to use stinking thinking. Well, if Will thought about that scene, look at he triggered into his head, pushing him. What are you doing? He couldn't use his superpower, which was what? His thoughts. His superpower was of no use there. His intellect and genius had no place there. And this is why this work is so fucking important, is because he's a genius. He could have thought his way through feeling worthiness. Intellectually, he knows that no child deserves that. Intellectually, he can read a book in 5 seconds. He knows that he didn't deserve that. But he cannot change the feeling with his cognition. He couldn't.
And I had something to say too.
Yes.
I also think it's just, when we're talking about belief systems and the conditioning of everything, like up until then, no one really gave him, or from his lens, showed him that he was loved and worthy of it. But the fact that someone like his counselor stuck with him through all of that, I mean, he kind of put him through the whirlwind. He even crossed some boundaries and still formed a really great relationship. I think that, like, just that, and someone who does know all of him and still saying that at the end, like, it's not your fault. I feel like that was very much more impactful for him than it were to be for someone else. Maybe you respect.
We're going to come back to this because we're going to talk about this exact, what you just said, Janae. We're going to come back to this because this is the fine line of attachments and dependency in the therapeutic realm. We're going to talk about how perfect the fine line was in this movie, because it's a fine line. And people were like, oh, I remember afterwards, they're like, oh, it's like Will and Sean going to be best friends for life. And I was like, I hope not. No. So again, and the reason why I say I hope not is because that forms a dependency. And Will needs to know, regardless of what Sean thinks of him, that he's loved, period. But as long as he attaches his growth, his development, his knowing, his leaving it at the foot of the cross, as long as he knows that that was him that did that, not Sean, then he has now the true power within himself. But as long as he believes that it was Sean that gave that to him, that's a leaky bucket. That's a leaky bucket. And then all it takes is the next person to come into that leaky bucket. And the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then the bottom falls out. And so that's where there's this really tricky fine line between his discovery. Sean was actually very secondary to the discovery that Will had in that moment. And although he played a role in making sure that it would come to fruition, and he gave him the grace in that moment to show him what real love was, at the end of the day, it was Will's superpower.
It's not your fault. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.